every demand participant started to need to factor its own role in changing market behavior, right? The strategies, the optimization, those sorts of things that you lean on, they have to be responsive to the changes in the marketplace. And that means that every supply participant, every demand participant, both needed to manage a lot more bid data and analyze a lot more bid data to understand what's working and when it's not, why, right? And so as we started to see an emergence of things like impression arbitrage, resale, ad server waterfall complexity, undisclosed bid caching, sometimes outright fraud, those complexities enabled by the opacity in the supply chain created a context in which there was a lot more data that needed to be looked at, right? And inevitably that, combined with the rise in header bidding, enabled Adexchanger cleared inventory to compete directly with ad server managed inventory. That was great because it flattened parts of the RTB request flow, but it came at the expense of significant bid multiplication, right? So many of the SSPs and DSPs themselves actually now had to handle basically the same impression opportunity coming through multiple different pipes, which is again another form of increased data to analyze.
I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough to be in the AdTech space from before it was called AdTech. And the amount of data that we had to work with when it was back in the right media days versus the amount of data that we work with today is exponentially different.
A lot of the legacy players began to effectively become obsolete, and you started to see a lot of technology and the things akin to Spark, Snowflake, etc. stand up. And so basically that this creates this context in which we all have tens of millions of QPS to handle, hundreds of terabytes of data that we need to analyze every single day. We have to do that across, our globally distributed data centers, sometimes depending on the way that our teams are structured or our technology is built, or maybe we've done a lot of acquisitions across the history of our company's life cycle. There's a lot of languages to manage in that case, right? And every single one of those bid opportunities, as anyone probably in the audience that has experience with telemetry or observability tooling, each one of those pieces of RTB requests effectively spawns off another several hundred or thousand data elements that have to be looked at. And that is pretty hard.
The first thing that we think about or that we have to account for when it comes to AdTech data is the cardinality of the data itself. So it's not just about the immense volume that is coming through to you, but it is about the number of attributes that you actually see coming at that volume.
Ocient has taken a kind of a consolidated approach that combines capabilities into a single data platform. And this data platform, this consolidation, really drives cost reduction and a lot of efficiencies by consolidating this sprawl of infrastructure and being able to handle a lot of these workloads against a single set of data versus having copies of data throughout the ecosystem.
It is not just about the complexity of data itself. It is about the amount of time that it is required to build those systems that will allow you to act on that data. And then most importantly, from a business perspective, the cost that you incur to be able to act on that data with the response time that you believe you need. Right. And the tech stack itself has become extremely, extremely complicated just because we were trying to bolt on things as we kept getting more data, newer data types, newer data sets. And then we started to solve for different use cases. And we just kept organically growing systems, when I think now it just makes sense to have solutions in place that can allow you to have a consolidated solution to them. All of this on a high volume stream, tens of millions of records per second with all of those attributes layered on, makes it really, really complex for us when it comes to deciding how do you actually stand up a platform that operates with the kind of SLA that you expect the platform to operate on and operates within the cost profile that your business wants you to operate in.
And so what we see in most of the cases with customers whose workloads we've worked on is that for them, in order to handle these cases today, they've kind of built this sprawl of infrastructure to handle individual cases. And so what that results in is that the people with the domain expertise who are developing the application and who are creating innovation and generating revenue from these applications are spending a disproportionate amount of their time focusing on managing the topology and managing these processes. If you're envisioning what the solution should look like in the future with all of these disparate data sets that you're combining, how can that also service new revenue generating activities or new innovation in AdTech? Because if you're just doing the same kind of use cases, yes, you can reduce costs and you can consolidate. But really the holy grail is to consolidate all of this data and then open it up in a way where you might have REST APIs, or you might have new applications. People want additional insight into bidding strategies, things like that could potentially be monetized. This consolidated platform can also service many different orthogonal applications. And so it's very important to point out that you can't just throw a bunch of data and a bunch of workloads on a single system and expect it to work. A lot of these workloads have different characteristics in terms of the amount of data that they analyze, but also in their service level objectives, their SLOs.